An actress with a glamorous career, especially as a Bond girl, Fiona Fullerton had her fair share of fans, but she kept her friendship with one a secret. That's because he was a suspected Soviet spy being held in a British prison.
Yes, having first written a letter to her in the 70s, prisoner Anthony Alexandrovich never imagined that Fiona would respond. But intrigued by his humour, she sent a letter back.
And the pair became confidants.
Confidants
is the word. And
That's the one, Charlie.
Yes. I was just checking out I was reading the right word there. But tell us, it is an extraordinary tale because this is very early on in your career. You're a very glamorous actress and you get a letter. And in some circumstances, people might think, well, you just, send a picture back and that's that done with. But it started an extraordinary process.
It started an extraordinary friendship. I was only 19 at the time when he sent me his first letter. And I was appearing in Angels at the time, which is a long time ago in the BBC. And something about his letter really stood out. First of all, I don't know if I can just show you quickly here. I've got one of his letters replicated in the book. He has the most extraordinary, tiny handwriting.
Do you want me to hold that up while you chat?
It's really tiny, but he's also got the most wonderful, wicked sense of humour. And in the first letter, he paid me a massive compliment and then followed that with a twist. He said, your face, this was 1976, mind you, he said, your face could launch the US Navy and a couple of submarines, but my pal says just the US Navy.
Oh, and that was the sense of humour that sort of piqued you,
yeah, so I sent him a rather ghastly picture of myself in Angels, and that prompted a response from him, a very lengthy response, a very witty, funny letter, wonderful letter. And I realised then that this was a rather special, unusual person. He wasn't... I think where he was didn't sort of impact on me at all at the time. I just thought he was a very clever, knowledgeable, wise, wonderful person.
And then sort of follows, and it's all in the book, all the series of letters over many years that you and he wrote. And you built up a really close relationship, actually, didn't you?
Well, the friendship got deeper and deeper as my life started to unravel. I was married in 1976, and then, sadly, a couple of years later, it all started to go pear-shaped. And I was one of those people who always was putting on a sort of sunny facade to pretend that everything was okay. And in the media, we were being portrayed very much as a sort of golden couple at the time, in the late 70s, and I was incredibly lonely and unhappy. So I treated him very much as a confidant, and I wrote these letters that were quite heartbreaking in a way, because I was able to tell him things that I couldn't tell my friends.
We need probably to just take us through who he was and why he was that. When you first met him, he was actually in jail for life, wasn't he? And that took a while for you to find out exactly what had happened.
He, I have to say, in this book we've got some quite unusual pictures of him, but I mean, that's what he looks like now. But I don't know if you can see that. But when he was first sentenced in 1971, he was 18 years old. It was the height of the Cold War. I think Britain, well, the government was rather twitchy about our relations with Russia. After a series of very unfortunate events and coincidences, he found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, basically. I mean, he did have a history of petty theft, but as a result of being photographed outside the Russian embassy with a diplomat who was subsequently expelled, 104 Russian diplomats were expelled 2 weeks before Alex was arrested. So it seems to me, and to a lot of people, in fact, that it is one of those ghastly sort of Kafkaesque nightmares where he really should not have been imprisoned, and certainly to serve 22 years for aggravated burglary is rather unusual. So one of the reasons for writing the book was to raise awareness of his case, of the miscarriage of justice.
So explain to us, so very close relationship built up, then you lost touch, didn't you? But you found the letters some many years later and decided to find him.
Yes, last year, quite by accident, I was rifling through the cupboard under the stairs and going through some old scripts and things like that, and I found his letters, and they're just like you saw, just all immaculate, tiny handwriting, and they were all perfect, hundreds of them. And I started to reread them, and it's quite interesting. I don't know if you've ever had that experience of rereading something that you've written over 30 years ago, and how extraordinary it was, my letters and his letters. And I think, you know, with the privilege of hindsight and with age and wisdom now, I was able to appreciate how beautiful these letters were and how extraordinary our friendship had become. And I think I kind of underestimated how special it was. So I really wanted to find out if he was still alive, if he was okay.
Well, and without wishing to give away everything that's in the book, I mean, there is an end to the story, if you like, in as much as you did meet.
Yes, there's a very happy ending. We met last year in May 2011, having never met before. I didn't even know what he looked like. And the correspondence had faded in the 80s. And when we met, it was just like picking up with a true friend that you haven't seen for a few years. And I think this is the essence of the book. It's about friendship and about the fact that you should never undervalue the importance of a real friend. Because after all those years apart, we came back together again, and he's like a brother that I never had. You know, he's somebody who has been embraced by my family and who we all care for very deeply. And I mean, but only because he cared for me so deeply. So it's a very, you know, the book is full of contrasts. It's about my rather glamorous life as an actress set against the darkness of his incarceration. I mean, and I had no idea that my letters
because he didn't
would
sort of
be
make
so
it clear,
important.
did he? Yes, he didn't make it clear.
And did you have some guilt at not having sort of carried on,
God,
found out sooner?
Immense guilt was what prompted me to write the book, because I felt that I had not done sufficient to draw attention to his case, that I should have used my fame in the 80s to maybe to do something a bit more positive. And when I found these letters and promptly burst into tears, I just thought, gosh, that, you know, I wish I'd done something more at the time. And so now, you know, better late than never, I've come to his aid, and he's got a better quality of life, and hopefully his case will be reopened and we'll have some kind of closure.
It is an intriguing story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's
lovely to see you. Thank you very much.
Dear Fiona, Letters from a Suspected Soviet Spy is on sale from September the 10th.